Thank you for coming to the Wild and Precious Life series. I'm really excited to introduce our first reader tonight, Mel Sherrer. And this is Mel's second time reading in the series because she has a new chapbook out that we're excited about. Mel, for your intro, I'm actually going to read something that you responded to in an interview in February of 2017 in a blog interview with Gabrielle Brandt Freeman. And Gabrielle asked, "What issues are you currently most passionate about? What is the one thing you would like people to know or understand about this issue?" And I appreciated what you had to say. And so I'm going to share that as your intro. There have been so many things I'm absolutely on the edge of combustion about. In fact, it's been very difficult to breach these subjects in my writing. I'm just horrified, honestly, in regards to the progression to its authoritative government of women's lives, bodies, and identities. I'm horrified that as one of the most liberated societies in the world, America is still so far from embracing racial diversity. I'm horrified by the deplorable governmental attitude towards the remaining Native nations of America, who suffered enough of the injustices of colonization and racism long before pipelines were even considered. I'm horrified at the popular conception that education is a means to a capitalist end rather than a lifelong pilgrimage towards enlightenment. I'm continually horrified at the growing notion that citizenship in this country is to be coveted for people of certain nationalities and ethnicities. I cannot talk tonight. And faiths, which, in contrary to constitutional declarations, contrary to the triumphs of failures of history, and totally ignorant of the fact that America was built on the strengths of its many cultures. I could go on. Apologies for my tongue twisting. The screen is all yours.
Thank you, Dustin. Seriously, the best in the business to do it when it comes to introductions and readings in general. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I think even though, that was from an interview in 2017, I still feel that way. All of that's still very true for me, except one thing. I really have sort of found a way to breach those subjects in my writing, honestly. And for me, the answer has really been simplicity. So when you hear the poems from Vice Grip tonight, you won't hear any epic poems. They're all micros, the object is brevity. And I'm hoping that they're moving nonetheless. So I'm reading from Vice Grip here. And this first poem I'm going to read is called Cinder. Black children die from standard issued bullet holes, and the world wants a sermon, wants plantation woe songs, velvet robes, candles, and psalms, wants Black people to grieve within the confines of billowy church sleeves. Let me come as I am, wailing about the dead, not a preacher, but an arsonist. This poem is called Battered by Breakfast. Another bright morning, and people senselessly dead. Swallow the egg of grief, first fist fight of the day. I've not even had coffee. You'll notice a lot of puns just because I like short poems to work hard, pay rent. This one's called Salt and Pepper Spray. What is it about a Black man with a little gray in his beard that drives people wild? A hint that tugs up from the corner of his lips when he laughs, a streak that shrugs on his cheeks when he speaks. I think it's about seeing a Black man get to live to be a certain age. This one's the only long poem in the book. And I say long, it's like 30 lines, so not really long. It's called Chain. I want a big chain, huge, pendulous, So heavy, my shoulders dips when it sways. I want a lot of chains, plenty, so many. I must wear a turtleneck to protect my skin against the snow melt. Platinum and diamond, cold creek between my breasts, engraved with my sets on the face of medallions like stamped Roman coins. I want chains stacked, adorning my neck, so numerous. No one could strangle me in the back of a paddy wagon without first removing chains delicately and perhaps marveling at their shine and maybe loving that shine enough to believe I matter too. I want chains on chains, thick links, so thick nobody could kneel on my neck. So many chains that bullets will be caught in their metallic webbing over my chest. I want to wear my best chains just in case. For once, I want to choose the shackle, the ligature. I was thinking of Sandra Bland when I wrote that poem, Murdered in Police Custody. This poem is titled Crowdsourced Savior. I felt like this once before. At a funeral, one of my best friends, a heroin overdose, the putrid smell of flesh and flowers, a mother's red-rimmed eyes, the many guilty faces encircling the dead. So many of us knew about the junk. I feel that way as I watch another Black man die on television, a knee on his neck, people all around. Rest in peace to George Floyd. Just a couple more here. This one's titled, If I Held a Vigil for Each One, the rest of my life would be handheld candles, cards and crosses, on the street corner, one lasting moment of silence. This one's titled Body Cam Footage. Put it in time capsules where you might put your favorite album or a recipe, a copy of the deed and blueprint to your house, the one you built and brought yourself. Put it in with a piece of the cornerstone. Bury it in a time capsule in the backyard with your children smiling as they add dirt, or bury it in the town square where monuments to hatred, where spray paint scars. Just put in the footage. The future should know how America treats the very people who raised it by hand. And then one more for you before I return it to Dustin for the evening. This one's titled Reform. It's not about reciprocity. It's not like someone proposed waking you up in the night, kicking in your door, killing your kinfolk, and then showing up at the school to take your children too. Thank y'all.
If you want to read a few more, you have time.
Don't threaten me with a good time, Dustin. I got one. This one's titled Collision, and I wrote this in memoriam of Breonna Taylor. The scariest part about crashing is having no control. You're powerless against the forces which hurl and drag you, unable to overcome the maddening spiral. You may know it's coming, or you may wake to the sounds of doors splintering open, the intricate shuck and click of guns being drawn, your lover at the helm doing what any decent man might do, and you ripped from a dream by bullets. Let's see, I think I could do one more for you. This was titled Shell Shock. An assault on my timeline, an innocent Black person dead. And am I obligated to grieve right there on the feed? Can the strangled be expected to give eulogies, to speak? Thank y'all. I really will leave it at that.
Thank you so much for sharing your work. Next up is Nicole Tallman. Ask Nicole to unmute. So I have to say, like, I have got to meet Nicole in person for the first time. Was it May or was it April? I can't remember.
June, I think.
June. See, time is still a construct. Finally got to me after interacting virtually for quite a while. Also follow her on Twitter. She always has some great conversations, and she's so great also at promoting other poets. So, and she is a poetry ambassador herself, in Title II. So I'm just thrilled that she is here tonight, and it's been really great getting to know her, since she's a South Florida poet and I'm in South Florida. So I just have to say that I truly appreciate getting to know you. But for your intro, I'm actually not taking you far back. This is just from April of this year. You were interviewed in Frontier Poetry, and you were asked, from a craft standpoint, what typically causes you to accept a poem? What causes you to turn the page and move on to the next submission? So for context, Nicole is also a reader for South Florida Plojo and is involved in other projects. But I really just love what you had to say about what interests you. So I want to share an excerpt of that. You have more to say than what I'm going to share, but I'm sharing an excerpt of that as your intro. I love surprise, but I also love clarity and truth. I like a wise observation presented in a surprising way. I also think humor is undervalued. I really like to laugh and to have fun while I'm reading. I also don't mind crying, but I definitely want to feel something strongly right from the beginning of reading a poem, which could be something as simple as intrigue. I like an image or line that I can't unsee, unhear, or turn away from. I like to feel like I'm having a conversation with a speaker. I like the intimacy of that experience, of the speaker interacting with me as a reader as an intentional and perhaps provocative way. I also like a speaker that exudes confidence without being pompous. There's a fine line there. And I love pop culture poems. I'm a big fan of poems that feel very immediate and in response to current moments and events. I like the everyday, the accessible, but with a twist. Oh, and the poet needs to nail the ending. Sometimes there's so much buildup and then the end falls flat. First and last lines are so important. Start with a hook and end with a bang and keep me engaged in the middle. Thank you for being here tonight. The screen is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Dustin. It's so lovely to have someone pay attention to your words and read them so closely, and to hear them back it's moving. I'm tearing up a little bit. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me and for all that you do for poetry in our community. And I want to thank Marina and Mel for sharing this space with me tonight and the honor of reading along with you. Thank you so much. And for all of you who are here, thank you so much for being here tonight. I know there are a lot of other things you could be doing, so I always appreciate when people show up for readings. I'm going to do something a little different tonight. I'm going to read just one poem from my book, Something Kindred, if you can see it here. I published this with the Southern Collective Experience Press in February of this year. And then I'm actually going to read some poems from various anthologies that I've recently published poems in. And one of the reasons why is the people who edited these anthologies put a lot of work into them, and I want to give them a little bit of extra love too. So that's kind of my way of sharing some of my work in the context of a larger community project. So I hope that's okay. The first poem that I'm going to read is actually the very final poem in my book. And it's an after poem. It's after Alex Dimitrov. And this poem is actually going to be published in Limp Wrist in the near future. So thank you, Dustin, for that. And I'm going to dedicate this to you, Dustin, because I know you love this poem. This is On Love, after Alex Dimitrov. I love morning before I've used my voice. I love morning before anyone has spoken. I love Miami in February. I love the word petrichor. I love the smell of petrichor. I love velvet blazers and wearing them despite the weather and occasion. I love buying myself red roses. I love drinking rose water. I love chartreuse, champagne, and chambord. I love the way that sounds. I love finding books with old notes hidden between the pages. I love that my cat looks annoyed when I come home from work. I love that my partner looks happy when I come home from work. I love deep conversations with people I'll never see again. I love the moon more than the sun. I love Medusa and her head of snakes. I love drawing the hermit card from the tarot deck. I love my Salvador Dali tarot deck. I love being alone in the forest. I love being alone in a field of lavender. I love being alone without feeling lonely. I love being an only child. I love that happy hour isn't always happy. I love not owning a home. I love wooden matches. I love candles with wooden wicks that crackle. I love a wood burning fire. I love people who own fireplaces in Miami. I love that a Miami summer can feel more brutal than a Michigan winter. I love going to the beach when there's no sun. I love a well-made bed and a well-ironed shirt. I love the occasional earworm. I love tuning everything out. I love people who aren't afraid to say no. I love holding the door open for others. I love changing my mind. I love squirrels that store food for the winter. I love food made with love. I love birds that don't fly south for the winter. I love a conspiracy of ravens. I love the seagull I once saw eating a discarded orange. I love a peacock presenting its colors. I love a flamingo standing on one leg. I love the angels that adults leave in the first snow that sticks. I love early spring crocuses as they push through the snow. I love anatomical drawings of the human heart. I love the idea of touring every abandoned asylum. I love that this experience is likely better in my head than it would be in reality. I love frogs croaking in summer ponds. I love paddle boating around lily pads. I love when the muses speak to me. I love the highest note on the violin. I love the French who don't like me. I love wearing my mother's clothes. I love landing in a city I've never been before. I love returning to a city I've loved before. I love train rides to the country. I love ladybugs that don't act like proper ladies. I love deer that make it to the other side of the road. I love the idea that everything really works out in the end. I love a day with no social events, and I love you for listening to this poem. Thank you. So that's one of the longest poems I've ever written, and I wrote it one line at a time. So I know Mel likes shorter poems. I tend to write shorter poems. That was my long one. So these next ones will be short. The next one I'm going to read is from an anthology called It Came From Beneath the Ink, an R.L. Stine tribute anthology. And this one was edited by my friend, Lanny Stabile. And all of these anthologies that I'm reading from, you can go to my website. The links are there for those in case you want to support these anthologies and the presses that publish them. This is from ELJ Editions. This poem is called Yours Truly, Nutty Nicole. And it's an epistolary poem. Dear Topps Company, I would like you to know that I grew into my garbage pail kid's name, and that in case of a fire, my GPK collection is one of the few things I plan to take with me. When I evacuated for Hurricane Irma, I grabbed 6 material possessions: my purse, my photo album, my first teddy bear, a safe with important documents, my deceased mother's jewelry, and my collection of GPK cards. I would like R.L. Stine, AKA R.L. Slime, to know that I'm no middle grader, but I got goosebumps when I cracked open Welcome to Smellville. It's now on my bookshelf, displayed prominently among my not so juvenile and not so gross poetry books. I guess you could say I'm still an 80s kid, and I'm nostalgic for the 80s. I would also like you to know that I own the GPK movie and cartoon series, and that at the height of the pandemic, I tried to dig them out of storage to rewatch them. They were under too many heavy boxes to get to, and I was tired, so I settled for my new GPK book and stickers. It was good to see my old friends, Adam Baum, Babbling Brook, Brainy Janie, Cranky Frankie, Handy Sandy, Junk Food John, Luke Puke, Nervous Rex, Rob Slob, and Wacky Jackie. Thank you for the trip down memory lane and for some new GPK goods to look forward to. Yours truly, Nutty Nicole. And the next poem is one from Marvelous Verses, and this was edited by my friend Jared Beloff. And I wrote this love poem for my favorite Marvel character, who is Firestar. So this is love poem for Firestar, aka Angelica Angel Jones. Name a heroine hotter than Firestar. I don't think you can. I've been crushing on her since she debuted in 1981. Yes, I was only 5, but I knew fire then. I was glued to the TV. I had a thing for redheads, and she is magma. She is lava. No, she's the whole damn volcano. With a single glance, she set me on fire. That red hair against yellow costume fire. She's a red comet soaring high above the moon. She's radioactive. She's microwave radiation manipulation. She's full on flight. She's energy wavelength disruption. She's the zap that kills the microwave in the night. She's a trained assassin. She's loyal. She's single, but she's probably still in love with Iceman. The next one I'm going to read is, this is another anthology that was published by the Daily Drunk, and this one was edited by Casey Dawson. This poem is called Working the Fast Food Counter. And this whole anthology is retail and fast food. So this is about my time working the fast food counter one summer in high school at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's one summer in high school, but only because my mother made me. The manager looked me up and down one day and said, "No back kitchen for you. You're too pretty." Sent me straight to the front counter. I should have quit on the spot, but I didn't. Put on a purple shirt, the color of Grimace, and an ugly matching visor. Sold those burgers and supersized fries to even creepier guys than him. Burned my arm badly on the fry cooker and went home smelling like salt and grease. Worked with a guy who rode his bicycle to and from work in a blizzard. He defended me when the customers got too aggressive over not having enough mustard or pickles. He also took the food the manager said to throw away home every night to his kids. Said we were blessed to have a job. I'm gonna read 2 more for you. This one is from an anthology called Midnight Mass, and this was edited by Rachel Crosby and Charlie, I think it's Danello. I don't know, I haven't met him before, but they are amazing. This is based on the Netflix series Midnight Mass. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty cool. Maybe check it out. And this poem is called Father Paul. Father Paul, I grew up without a church, borrowed a pew at a friend's in the summer, drank the cloying fruit punch they served out of 2 small paper cups, ate their off-brand cookies. It was often cool and dark, the only light coming through the stained glass windows, light fractured like a prism. I stood at the feet of the crucified Jesus, felt the puncture of nails and thorns, put the dollar my mother gave me in the gold offering bowl. Everyone always seemed sad and solemn. I don't remember joy, but restraint, the smell of wax and bleach, the organ droning on, the few people who weren't tone deaf leading the chorus, my mind always wandering somewhere, anywhere but there, to running outside in the grass, to playing monkey in the middle, to coloring, to Lazarus, to Gabriel, to Mary, to sin and suffering, to blood, to the priest in his simple robes, to the little green Bible he gave me, to his unwavering belief that he could actually save me, to the girls I wanted to hug a little too long. The last poem I'm going to read for you is from this anthology called Dreams and Nightmares, and it was edited by Ora Martin, who is a fabulous person and poet. And this is another after poem after Alex Dimitrov. His poem is called Poem for the Reader, and this is called Poem for the Dead. Since we'll likely never be together again, anywhere but here, what season were you most alive in? Is there morning or color where you are? Do you have freedom? If so, how are you using it? Would you rather be a bird or an angel? Permanent day or never-ending night? If there are hours, when are your most difficult? Do you know who you were before this? Why or why not? And now that there's fire, are you in heaven or hell? More time or less? Do you still feel happiness? Would you return to Earth, this stream, or anywhere else? Thank you so much for listening. It's been a pleasure reading to you tonight.
And Nicole, before you mute yourself, we're going to break form because someone asked a question and I want to know the answer. So we're just going to pop you with a question, which has never happened on the Wild and Precious Life series.
Oh, I love that.
Reading. But Donna said, I love these very specific anthologies. Do you write for the calls or do you have the poems already? And because I wanted to know, we're going to ask.
I always write for the calls. In fact, I've never had, a lot of them are so specific. Like, for example, when Jared put out the call for Marvelous Verses, I probably wouldn't have written a Marvel poem had I not seen that call. All of them were for specific calls. And I love doing that. And I kind of like getting a little bit outside of my comfort zone. And I love pop culture. So anytime anyone is doing an antho, if it's pop culture, I'm going to submit, regardless of whether or not I get accepted. I'm still going to write something for it. I love doing that. So thank you for the question. It's a good one.
Thanks, Nicole. Okay, gonna ask our final reader of the evening to mute, Marina Carriera. And Marina's back because she has a new book out as well. And she's also editor of an anthology that we've had featured in the Wild and Precious Life series. But Marina, before I do your intro, I just have to say, I love your posts on social media that include your children. They're like, the posts are always such a ray of sunshine. There was a post that you did a little video, and I think it may have been at a Pride event in June. And one of your children had this like glittery pom-pom head. I was doing this little dance and it just really made my fucking day. And I just always watch or look at the pictures of videos you post because they never fail to make me smile. So thank you for sharing that part of your life with us on social media, because you're giving some of us smiles when we need it.
They are the pride. They put the pride in pride for sure.
Love it. So for your interview, I actually have two things that I'm going to share because sometimes I can't make up my mind. Then I'm like, well, it's my fucking series, so I can do what I want. So I'm going to share two things. And the first is I actually really, it was a review that Christine Salvatore wrote for your book, Tonto Tonto, which you're going to be reading from tonight in Mom's Egg Review. In case anybody is interested, you can Google Mom's Egg Review for this, but don't do it now because you should be paying attention to the series if you'd like to read the full review. And this is what Christine had to say. Tonto Tonto invites the reader into the life of its speaker with both beautiful and blistering images of an America where you're free to live as you please, but never free from judgment. The variety of forms that these poems take, from traditional stanzas to prose to a vibrant use of white space, suggest an organic nature of the content having chosen its own form of expression. Tonto Tonto is full of richly detailed personal stories that woo the reader into caring deeply for the speaker of these poems. The emotion is so real and honest, one cannot help but relate to these never dramatic, genuine in every way stories. Tonto Tonto is an emotional roller coaster, but a necessity ride through the life of a queer first-generation woman and mother. And to wrap up your intro, taking you back to 2018 to an interview with the Portuguese American Journal, and you were asked, what do you hope to accomplish with your writing? And this is what you had to say. I kind of hope that my work helps take people away from the mundane or insufferable moments in life for a bit, to a place where they can revisit or remember something sweet, warm, or kind, or dream about something better. I also hope my poems let people know that what they feel or supposes about the world is not unusual or uncommon, that they are okay. I want my poems to help people celebrate themselves, that it moves them to action for the betterment of humankind. The screen is yours. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Dustin, for inviting me. Thank you for your work. Thank you, Mel and Nicole. I'm so honored to be following both of you and your tremendous words. Seriously, blown away by both of you and honored to be part of this. I'm going to be reading from the book Tanto Tanto, which is Portuguese for a lot, which is not only a descriptor for me, but for the idea of just how much folks with marginalized identities in this country and even globally endure. But anyway, I'm going to start with the sonnet and I'll end with the sonnet. And the first one is called Sonnet for This Queer Body. Hail the double take of white men when I walk past. Head bald and big earringed, smear of incandescent pomegranate over my pout. Praise the mom pouch poking over the faux leather painted on my legs. The O's grandmas emit when I make way for them in the supermarket. Compliments to the claws painted black and gold, painted black and pink, gold ringed hands that write poems to a world always extending itself beyond reach. Pay tribute to the tattooed arms like pirate flags, the radical nose springing forth like alien bloom. Salute these sagging tits and coiffed cunt, these misty eyes cursing those who can't see such fucking divinity. This is an ekphrastic poem after Frida Kahlo's 1938 painting, What the Water Gave Me. The name where everyone forgets the N or adds another A, making me Maria or Mariana or any other immigrant's daughter, or where boats live, or of the sea, the ephemera of my grandfather, spools, needles, and tins of thread, crisply folded bills that shine like emeralds in bathwater. The twins' reflection once tinted steel against the buzzing skyline. The Dairy Queens and Bodega Kings looking for loose change on the riverbank. The dresses that never made me the woman my mother hoped for. The birds never returned to a vase cage. The respite from dark woods after dark-hearted men took what they never asked for. All the lovers I buried with beautiful lamentations. All the siblings I drowned and the one I couldn't. All the seahorses carrying my daughter's dreams, all the carnations blooming from my partner's palm. At the foot of this claw-footed haven, blood-red toes like black holes at the center of a galaxy dazzling with fire and ice, I dizzy in my own becoming. This one's called The Quiet. Sometimes I can't stop you from leaving. Some conversations require silence as punctuation demands solitude right after. For the best, so that the best can eventually resurface on our fingertips like wildfire, spread all the good that's left over each other's shoulders, backs, thighs, unfillable wells. Sometimes in this quiet, I am both in and out. Sometimes the quiet between no longer and not yet opens me up like evening primrose, and I trace your footsteps down the stairs and out the door, over the weedy sidewalk to where your car is humming with hesitation. Sometimes I take the quiet to listen. Listen to the moon's lax moan, the crack of kitchen light, the cricket's tired mutiny against every child's cry. The oven's uprising, the backdraft that follows, the certain leap from the steady cliff, the phone's frugal fado, the apologies of doors. Apology to the snails I crushed in my youth. I inherited cruelty, the sordid belief that to be big is to break something smaller, a vase garden, the town square, my fat little fist a mighty guillotine over their soft bodies, the sun a magnifying glass of good intentions. In the mornings, I trek over gendered rituals with tired tentacles, smile at the swat of sadness, crack at my kids' screamy demands for gentle brushing and more milk. I come apart at the cruelty of silence against sleep. Last night, I told my family, be grateful. Home is wherever we carry our hearts. Simone clapped her chubby hands together and said, God, what are we using our story for? How super to be small and believe in bigger things. This poem was actually published in Limpress, so I'm really excited to read it here tonight. Ode to the deer on the side of the road as America. Your ears still twitched 2 minutes after the crash, after someone who thought himself superior sped maniacally down a one-way in the dark. How could he have known you'd be there? He who sees himself center of the universe, how could he know you belong to this earth too? That this space is yours as much as his or mine? And really, weren't you here first? Isn't this documented biblically, scientifically, historically? By the time we got to you, it was too late. Despite the small pulse from your body, I knew death had come with its heavy boots and bag. Blood poured from your mouth, a tiny creek trickling back to its source, underground, where nothing forgotten is forbidden. Haplessly, we called the police as if they would be of any use. The officer shrugged, said he'd call for your removal, insisted you never had a chance given where you wandered, as if the fur and field behind you weren't home, as if your freedom wasn't as precious as his. And I'm gonna end with 2 new poems. This one's called At the End, and it was inspired by the ending of This Is Us, for anybody who is a This Is Us fan. At the end, the lovers reunite on a bed inside the caboose of a train headed to heaven. I'm supposed to swoon at the end of the series, sigh and say, that's how I want to go too, next to my boo. But no, I want to be different, alone in my father's village, on a sturdy chair over the cobblestone of the patio, blanket over my legs, one hand atop Mary Oliver's 1000 Mornings, the other gripping an orange from the grove before me. It will be dusk, the sky finger-painted pink and persimmon. Before my last breath, my grandmother returns down the road, Juju panting by her side. I smile and slack into stillness. The train behind the house hoots towards Valado. I am not in it, but paradise bound nonetheless. And as promised, I will end with a sonnet, and it's called Sonnet in the Wild of June. I pretend it's some other month, some other bad land to badmouth my shit luck in. Elizabeth says it's all part of the universe's plan. The nightmare job, the relapse, the teething dog, Groundhog's days of regret, pity, party of one. Still, I demand better from this beautiful planet. Its golden pampas and crystalline lakes, red rocks and salt flats. The bodega with the new AC blasting over the blue ices. The deranged hydrant spraying rainbows over hard gravel. This world owes every queer addict mother their dream deferred. Cake by the ocean, a gown of pills, a baby as safe as a gun in the hands of an old white man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to put the websites again for all of the readers tonight. So if you want to find out more about them, they have other books, they offer consulting services, whatever it is, check out their website. You may see something that you want to write to them about or purchase. So best way to support writers is to purchase their work. Coming out of the pandemic, maybe today's not the day. Save the links, purchase a book when you can. It is the best way to support the writers. Had a couple mentions of Limp Wrist tonight, so I'm also going to mention that Limp Wrist has 2 submission calls open. I'm going to put the links. We're open for regular submissions, and we're also doing a protest issue, giving the recent Supreme Court decision. So check those out. Submit accordingly if you are so interested. And then I'll give a final plug for the Dolly Parton poetry anthology that I'm co-editing. Submissions close 7/31, so submit those Dolly poems. And as I shared earlier, if you want to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that loveliness, that link there is our link tree. You can get the links. It's the easiest way. You can support the series without money. You can just do it by liking and resharing and all that jazz. It's greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Still confirming up the readers for our August reading, but there will be a date. So save that link. And if you're following us on social media, like I'm begging you to, if you're not already, you will be able to see who's reading via social media. And I would just give a thanks again to our readers tonight. The series only works if people say yes to read and then people show up. So thank you to everyone who is here tonight and for saying yes. It is greatly appreciated. Thanks so much and be safe.